Godzilla. Everyone knows his name and what he looks like. His trademark spine, his blue fire breath, and most importantly, that he's a big-ass lizard. He is one of, if not the most important characters when it comes to the giant monster movies, and in January 2021, the first trailer for the Monster vs. Godzilla vs. Kong released. The first ever rematch between the two cinematic titans since 1962, and in March of 2021, when we still had a few hundred people reporting COVID cases a day, it would gross over a lot of money. Well, a large part of the world was still in the middle of a global pandemic. How did Godzilla become such a massive figure, pun intended, in pop culture? Well, to do that, we are going to have to rewind the clock over 67 years. Our story somberly begins in March of 1954 with the Bikini Atoll tests, where the first ever hydrogen bombs were tested. The weapon was 400 times more powerful than the Little Boy, the device that was used on Hiroshima 9 years prior, and the danger area the U.S. had set up greatly underestimated the force of the bomb. 14 miles away, an unsuspecting fishing boat named the Daigo Fukuryu Maru, I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly, the Lucky Dragon No. 5, Scott and the fallout. Fisherman crew of the boat reported hearing a double clap of thunder, and about 2 hours later, there was a rain of white dust. That was the ash from the bomb, and the moment it touched the crew, it caused burns on their skin. The radio operator of the Lucky Dragon No. 5, Aikichi Kuboyama, would pass away some months later, and his dying words were this: "Please make sure that I am the last victim of the bomb." At around the same time, Toho producer Tomoyuki Tanaka was interested in making a movie about a giant monster, and this event would inspire the atomic allegories the final film had. Writer and director Shiro Honda was brought onto the project, and while initial concepts had a giant octopus as the monster of the movie, it was settled on that the beast would be a giant amphibious dinosaur with a name as a hybrid between the Japanese word for whale, Gojira, and gorilla, Gorira, coming together to form the name Gojira. Director of special effects Eiji Tsuburaya was hired to create the look of the monster, and after not being able to get the stop-motion effects correct, they decided to create what is now a staple of not just Godzilla, but for all of tokusatsu. A guy in a suit destroying model houses. It was a simple effect, but it worked. And in many of the shots compositing real actors into the monster effects still hold up incredibly well today, so you can imagine the immediate effect it had on people back then. The fantastic special effects were integral to selling the emotion and horror the movie displayed. This film was incredibly dark, featuring many scenes that feel eerily reminiscent of the 1945 bombings. In 1956, Gojira proved to be such a success in the Japanese markets, earning a lot of money, that American producer Edmund Goldman approached Toho about purchasing the rights to Gojira for $25,000 that Toho quickly accepted. The deal specified that Gojira would be given additional scenes and the removal of some others, and would mostly follow the same plots, except now American reporter Steve Martin, not that one, played by Raymond Burr, would travel to Japan on a smaller story and get caught up in the thick of Godzilla's plotline. He's kind of just there for American audiences to be like, whoa, that guy's American. Godzilla King of the Monsters is a very important piece of history for Godzilla because it made him popular in the West. At around the same time, Willis O'Brien, stop-motion artist behind the original King Kong, had written a script titled King Kong vs. Frankenstein. This script had failed to find interest with US studios, so an American producer O'Brien had brought the script treatment and concept art to, named John Beck, took the script to Toho. Toho purchased the rights to make a King Kong movie, and, using a loose adaptation of the script, they made a sequel to Godzilla Raids Again, 1962's King Kong vs. Godzilla. The ultimate battle of East versus West, the two monster titans would clash in an epic confrontation. Ishiro Honda would return to direct, along with the soundtrack yet again done by Akira Ifukube, who has done the soundtrack for most of this video. Eiji Tsuburaya would yet again return to do the special effects as well. The movie itself is incredibly fun to watch. It functions as both a Japanese remake of the 1933 King Kong and a sequel to Godzilla Raids Again, kind of fused together, with two major fights between the two monsters. It is fantastic, despite some dated scenes on Faroe Island with some dated makeup. Yeah. It hasn't aged super well. It was 1962. King Kong vs. Godzilla earned an estimated $10 million at the box office and is still the most attended Godzilla film of all time. The movie ended with King Kong and Godzilla plummeting into the ocean, and King Kong swimming away back to Faroe Island, the winner of the monstrous mashup. The iconography of this movie is still felt today, obviously, which cements it as the movie that truly skyrocketed the Big G's film career, and Toho knew it. After producing a few other monster flicks, Godzilla would get his fourth entry, where he would come face to face with the fan-dubbed Queen of the Monsters, Mothra. Following this would come the fateful clash of Rodan, Mothra, Godzilla, and the brand new King Ghidorah, Godzilla's arch-rival. This would be another classic mashup that has been repeated many times over, including the 2019 King of the Monsters. Godzilla would get another installment with the film Invasion of Astro Monster, followed by Abira, Horror of the Deep, and Son of Godzilla would introduce a character that would play into the downfall of the Showa era of Godzilla, Minya. That's right. After seeing the slow decline in ticket sales of Godzilla movies, they decided to appeal to a younger demographic and give Godzilla a son, leading to a bunch of wacky, zany moments in an otherwise is not terrible film. This movie was not the end, because Toho wanted the Godzilla series to finally, properly end. They knew that Godzilla wasn't nearly as popular as he once was, and released one of the most popular Godzilla films in the G-Man's history. It was supposed to be his grand finale, Destroy All Monsters. Destroy All Monsters earned a lot at the box office, so Toho went right back to making kiddie schlock until 1975, when Ishiro Honda would with that film's box office numbers being so high, they went right back to kiddie schlock until 1975, when Ishiro Honda would fittingly return to direct the final installment in Godzilla's Showa Era, Terror of Mechagodzilla. This movie, while basing its story on the previous, was much darker in tone and feels much more in line with the Godzilla movies of old, or rather the first two, because Toho wanted to go back and try and reel in longtime fans. This effort would prove futile, however, as its release on March 15th, 1975 would mark the end of the Showa era for Godzilla. With strong beginnings, although a sort of clumsy result, the Showa era would go down as the defining era for Godzilla, as much of the world would view the monster as a goofy kids series, and not the fantastic movie depicting the horrors of nuclear destruction it began as. The Showa era of Godzilla is incredibly impactful. It had a massive impact on Japanese filmmaking, spawning a plethora of giant monster TV shows and movies, from Toho's own Varan, the Mysterians, Atragon, and War of the Gargantuans, to the Ultraman franchise, Power Rangers, and Gamera. This early era of Godzilla set the tone the Japanese monster movies would carry for a long, long time. Nine years later, in 1984, Godzilla would return, yet again commentating on political tension and nuclear power, but this time about the Cold War. But that is a story for another time.